Dianah Sharp is speaking with Dion Brand November 16th at the Fleck Theater. Okay, I'm just mattering here because there's too much noise. We need people. Okay, November 2nd, Alchemy Lectures at York. Look, Dion Brand started a new imprint at Knopf Canada, and it's amazing. You should all come to York on November 2nd to hear the launch of it. Okay, I think we got people here. I'm going to shut up. Okay, I'm going to get Huda back on stage. I'm doing it. I'm not getting Huda back on stage. I'm doing it. Okay. Okay, folks, we're doing this. So we have, for this one table, we're going to be talking about community activism and solidarity. And we have Sheryl, Nestel, Eloise, Nancy Cooper, and Alissa Trotz. So Sheryl Nestel holds a PhD from Moise U of T, where she taught sociology and equity studies from 2000 to 2012. What are they screaming? She serves on the steering committee of the Jewish Faculty Network and the International Jewish Collective for Justice in Palestine. Okay, we know that this has been a really difficult weekend, and the work that Sheryl has done is incredibly important and foundational. Alissa is a trans-Filipino immigrant living in Toronto. He was once a student who frequently skipped class and did more interesting things like visit the Toronto Women's Bookstore. Nancy Cooper is from Chippewas of Rama First Nation. Her second book, Bind Again, Amik Says Welcome, which is on sale at our book table, was released in 2023 with Owl Kids Books. Nancy lives in Toronto with her wife, who's kick-ass herself, two 15-year-olds and their Huda. And Alissa Trotz hails from Dianah and teaches at the University of Toronto in Women and Gender Studies and the Caribbean Studies. She served on the board of the Toronto Women's Bookstore in the 2000s. So let's have your attention, and we're going to give it up to our speakers.
Thank you, everyone, and I'm so honored to be asked to speak here today and to see all these faces I haven't seen in a really long time close to my heart. So this is a wonderful event, and Andrew and May, you really knocked it out of the park here. So applause. Okay, so I've been asked to recount something that took place over 20 years ago. I had to call a few people and have them refresh my memory and go online, and luckily there was documentation. And this event was a devastating attack on the TWB and its supporters, in which the bookstore was accused of anti-Semitism for selling a button that said, "Stop the occupation." I remember it slightly differently, but, I'll go with the online stuff. Referring to the, decades-long colonial control of the West Bank and East Jerusalem. So speaking about this in the midst of a new and already devastating war launched by Israel in Gaza in response to a massive and unprecedented surprise attack on Israeli soldiers and civilians carried out in response to a massive and unprecedented surprise attack on Israeli soldiers and civilians carried out on Saturday by Hamas. The death toll of more than 1,000 on the Israeli side is soon to be matched by the death toll in Gaza, and will no doubt be exceeding it in the coming weeks. For many radical and anti-Zionist Jews, formulating a humane, ethical, and politically comprehensive response is very, very difficult. As a long-time Jewish Palestine solidarity activist, I know that Palestinian defiance is necessary and inevitable after decades of oppression, incarceration, destruction, and roundup. On the other hand, I can't stop thinking of my friend Lillian, with whom I organized the first North American Jewish Feminist Conference in 1973 in New York. He was a well-known feminist peace activist in Israel, and he was abducted from her home near the Gaza border, and he is apparently being held in Gaza. Over 100 members of her kibbutz Be'eri were killed on Saturday. There's no alternative to holding these two devastating facts in our minds at the same time, and guaranteeing that we continue to emphasize the content of conquest and oppression that has brought us to this moment. I'm going to leave it there for now, but I felt that, under circumstances, it was very important to say something. So, to the matter at hand, it seems like no time has elapsed, nothing has changed. We're back to square one. So in 2002, the bookstore began selling a button that's Women Against the Occupation, which coincided with the launch of a book by Mahmoud and Rory Blanton, two distinguished feminist scholars, one Palestinian and one Jew. A patron of the bookstore, a U of T psychology professor, demanded that the buttons be removed and reported the incident to certain actors in the institutional Jewish community. Anju and the bookstore staff and board bravely declined to remove buttons. What they faced was, a boycott campaign. Some Jewish organizations and individuals encouraged professors not to order their course readings from the bookstore, a source of 70% of its income. Pressure was exerted on the building's owner to evict the bookstore from its space on Hubbard. Now magazine denounced the bookstore as the shame of the week. Bookstore workers now watched as some Jewish feminists who had been loyal bookstore patrons and supporters abandoned the most important feminist space in Toronto. In an interview a few years ago with the late beloved feminist anti-Zionist activist Amy Gottlieb, Angie described how deeply hurt she had been by the actions of some she considered allies. I recommend finding this online and watching it. I'm just seeing it is emotional. Ultimately, Michelle Lansford convened a meeting of the Jewish feminists who were critical of the bookstore and those of us who supported their position. It was one of the most frustrating encounters that I have ever had. While my memory is not what it used to be, I definitely remember that those of us defending the bookstore went out and got blind drunk at the, sorry, that was a bad use of words, very drunk at the end of the meeting. A necessary response to the unbearably tense encounter. Nonetheless, Michelle's intervention was key in ending the boycott of the bookstore. As we have learned, communities are imaginary spaces where we are required to obfuscate or deny our differences in order to achieve an identity-based solidarity. The Jewish community, like any other, is riven by political divisions, with support for Israel being a litmus test as to whether one is a real Jew. Those of us supporting the bookstore as Jewish feminists, Esther Weiss, Shlomit Siegel, Maylee, and others behind the scenes were seen as self-haters or traitors for daring to support Palestinian freedom. What we're doing, in fact, was defending universal principles of justice and demonstrating a fierce opposition to colonialism. All of us felt that these were principles that aligned with our Jewish heritage rather than contradicting it. When I was thinking about what to say here, my overwhelming memory, and this is actually interesting, is one of being brilliantly supported by the bookstore staff as legitimate Jews and principled activists. I think the bookstore staff may have had a different view of it. They may have seen it the other way, we were supporting them. But I'm going to hold on to my emotional memory and continue to remember the bookstore and those extraordinary individuals who kept it alive and relevant as an anchor in difficult times and a beacon of allyship and justice.
Toronto with my friends in the local, school night of the book. I eventually got to University of Toronto, took a bunch of introductory courses, anthropology, sociology, in a random course at the last section of the academic calendar. Under W was Women and Gender Studies. Introductory course, my first textbook was to be bought from the Toronto Women's Bookstore, just a few steps away from our classroom in New College. So I was one of those who were trapped. I was entrapped in it. So when I first walked in, the person working there was like, go upstairs. So I willingly grabbed it, went downstairs, browsed, and I was like, oh wow, this is amazing. And so there I was, it seemed like a library of all things interesting. In Philippines, the only bookstore I've been in were branches of, it's called the National Bookstore. It was a franchise, it barely had any books, it's mostly school and art supplies, like, they go here. But in TWB, not only was there a lesbian erotica section, wow, people get you. Okay. It even had Egan Foundation books. It's a progressive think tank from the Philippines. So before that time, I thought reading Egan Foundation books was just for radical extremists like me. But seeing some of the books on the shelf of seemingly an established bookstore in downtown Toronto made me feel at ease. I always felt that I had such specific interests at that time in connection to each other, right? Like being queer, I was a Philippine activist, I liked art, revolutionary aesthetics. But to see all these books in one room, I really felt that I felt good. And visiting the bookstore was so much more enriching experience than attending a class of 1,500 people at Hall, University of Toronto. So I found school so boring. Also I have ADHD, so that didn't help. And because of ADHD and diverse interests, that changed literally by the minute. It was also always such a pleasure to see TWD table at events. Because then I don't want to listen to the person speaking at the front. I could just go and browse books. And I remember meeting Janet at an event before. Yeah. So eventually I picked up a copy of Vivian which is Sex Change, Social Change. It honestly made me trans. So it's not actually because I looked in front of the mirror and I thought that I was in the wrong bag. Don't tell my doctor, but Angela, I'm actually a Parkdale Community Health Center patient, so thank you for the honeys. But seriously, that book, Sex Change, Social Change, like so many other books and events at BWB was critical suicide prevention for many trans people. The book helped me recognize that trans identity is a political identity, and there are so many trans people who are active agents of social change. These past few weeks, we've seen an alarming rise of anti-trans hate, exploiting a complex issue to broaden right-wing organizing. The internet, which was once and still is, have increased trans representation, visibility. But as you know, the contradiction there is hyper-visibility. And that have made trans become trans kids easy subjects of disinformation campaigns. In some ways, the internet has become a terrible space for trans people, and not just because of the transphobia expressed by the public and which we read all the time in the newspaper and social media. But the internet is also where you get outed, you get doxxed, and you get cyberbullied. So it's not to say that spaces like TWB were like the safest and the most perfect place for trans people, but it certainly was one of the few. And I'm sure many of you agree that a business like an intersectional feminist bookstore offers something different than, let's say, a non-profit shopping space. Right? So, funny enough, every time I go to a new space, I always put myself a fork of like books, to kind of subliminally tell people what my practice is about, or make me feel better about the space that I'm in. So I'm so grateful for Toronto Women's Bookstore. It's true what Lillian said, it really has changed the city. I love Toronto because of Toronto Women's Bookstore. And so thank you.
I'm going to stand up. Mostly just so everybody can see my gold boots. Hi, everybody. Thank you for the honor of being able to speak with you tonight. It's like a family reunion, right? But I haven't had any passive-aggressive relatives yet, so. I am Nancy Cooper. My people come from the Williams Treaty areas. I'm the daughter of Madeline and the granddaughter of Nancy. I'm the mother of Jay and Quinn. I'm the auntie to countless others, and the circle meets and goes around again. A spoken story is larger than one unheard, unsaid. In nearly all creation accounts, words or songs are how the world was created. The animals sung into existence. That's Linda Hogan. As I have been taught, I must name those who have come before me, who taught me, held me with their words when the world seemed like it was going to crush me, who held a lamp in the darkness, who said, "Fuck yeah, let's do this." The miracle bar. So ba means you use the word ba after somebody's passed in literature. Connie Fife ba. Beth Brandt ba. Gloria Anzaldúa ba. My dear friend Christos. For those younger lesbian feminists and everybody else, go out and find her work. It's life-changing. Joy Harjo. Louise Erdrich. My Auntie Marie Campbell. Get the newest edition of Half-Read. There you will read how she was raped by an RCMP officer. Jeanette Armstrong. Louise Half. I could go on and on, but I only have 5 minutes. All these women and their words have shown me the light in the darkness at times in my life. And I know that there are many of you who feel the same way about these writers. I moved here over 30 years ago. I remember walking by the bookstore a few times before getting up my nerve to walk in. I was terrified. I gravitated to the Aboriginal section, as it was called then, and got lost. Then I kind of snuck over to the queer section. From there, it was a hop, skip, and a jump into a world that spoke to me and said, "You belong here just as you are perfect." My writing life has been enriched through my relationship with the Toronto Women's Bookstore. I participated in workshops, maybe even read my poetry for the first time at an event. My queer life has been enriched through my relationship with the bookstore. All those amazing people who walked through those doors, some even into my heart, and, some into my pants. But all I met taught me something about solidarity, intersectionality, grit, sex, laughter, and backbone. My career life has been enriched through my relationship with the bookstore. The store was always a place of bountiful resources and people to bounce ideas off of. I even did a stint on the board, which was very cool. Thursday, August 14, 2003. Does anybody remember what happened that day? Well, in addition to it being the day that Strong Women Stories, edited by Kim Anderson and Benita Lawrence, launched, it was also the day that a huge chunk of the North American electricity grid went down, plunging Toronto into darkness. But did that stop the Toronto Women's Bookstore from having lunch? Of course not. They just took it to the streets. I was positive it wasn't going to happen, so I didn't go. I'm actually in the book. It was only after that I heard about these amazing humans on the street loving that book into existence. To me, that epitomizes what the Toronto Women's Bookstore has meant in my life. But fuck yeah, let's do this. So happy anniversary, Toronto Women's Bookstore. I'm going to just tell you one little more story and another quote, and then I'll sit down. One of my dearest friends in the whole wide world, my first queer lover, was a kid in rural Newfoundland who had a book, had a Toronto Women's Bookstore catalog. And they kept it close to them in their locker, hidden, just knowing that there was a place somewhere out there for them that would cherish and love them, and someday they would get there. So they gave me permission to tell the story tonight. So, to wrap up, I'm going to leave you with another quote from Linda Hogan that I think really
to the legacy left by the Toronto Women's Bookstore. Telling about our lives is important for those who come after us, for those who will see our experience as part of their own historical struggle. Miigwech.
Okay, can you hear me? Hi everyone, my name is Alissa Trotz, and I was asked to speak a bit about the academic relationship to the Toronto Women's Bookstore. So I moved to Toronto and joined the university in 2000 and was immediately directed by my colleagues to place orders at the Toronto Women's Bookstore, as well as to sort of do our readers at that coffee shop next to the Baptist Store Museum. Remember, that wasn't supposed to be legal, but we did it anyway. This was actually a really significant time in bookstores' history. The TAs had just come off of a strike, and if I remember, it was around 2000 that the workers at the University of Toronto Bookstore were also on strike. And in solidarity, a number of professors moved their orders to the Toronto Women's Bookstore and ended up staying. This relationship was really key to the success of the bookstore. Course orders took over the second floor. At the start of terms, students would be lined up outside because it wasn't a huge space. You had to climb those narrow stairs to get upstairs. I remember the backyard being used for bags. We had to check bags in the yard. It was an important, independent, feminist space. It was selling texts for all kinds of courses: science, social sciences, humanities, and at one point making more than 2/3 of sales at one point from course book orders. And these course orders certainly helped keep doors open while providing some breathing room for the incredible collection and life-saving programming that took over the first floor. And the TWB showed up to sell books at many academic events and book launches on campus. They were our community partner, the Women and Gender Studies Institute. But it wasn't a one-way street either. The university community was intellectually and spiritually nourished by the presence of this badass feminist space just steps from downtown campus. They carried books from small publishers. Angela Robertson, Angela and I went to undergraduate together, and I distinctly remember in her bedroom or her grandmother's bedroom, she used to have her books stacked neatly. So I'm not surprised that she actually has this copy with the price tag. There's probably not even a dog ear in it. But Angela said, say their names at or the publishers, and Nancy could just share their names of authors who the bookstore would carry. They carried journals, buttons, and stickers and magnets. You asked about the text, who were working on the floor, we look it up and try to order it in. I would take my young daughters there because there were really only two places in the city where you could find kids' books, people by characters who looked like their black selves, who looked back at them for pages. I remember in our intro class at the time, we had students make zines, and we would send them to the bookstore to look at samples, and some of our students ended up selling their zines there as well. The bookstore carried anti-racist, queer, anti-imperialist texts that addressed settler colonialism and indigeneity. Geographical range was a key organizing principle, but it was done in a way that referenced both specificity and wider connection. I could find a book at Caribbean section, for example, but the same book would also be shelved under the political theory section. I have no idea how they did it, because it must have been a ton of work to cross-reference and keep track. But this, I think, was what labor of care looked like. Even though Andrew, you can be exhausted, so this is sounding romantic. But this is what labor of care looked like. This was geopolitical literacy and a commitment to representation in action. It was also find that book. And you had to have time when you made that trip to Harvard, or you ended up making time. Because you might pop in for one book and somehow you found yourself sitting on the floor and reading others. Or if Andrew caught hold of you, that was the end of the day. There would be some long-ass conversation about a new text that had just come in, or something happening in the city that we should weigh in on or organize about. Or you got brought on the board like I was. My memory of that time is hazy. I do recall very long meetings and finding community with incredible young women, including some who became my colleagues and friends like Gulzar, Sharon, and Ruth and Lee. And the bookstore
also organize its own events and put on its own courses. It was a vibrant, dynamic place, and that brings me to my last point. We could say that the bookstore is gone. I mean, it closed about 11, 12 years ago. But we are all here tonight to give witness to the fact that it left its mark. This isn't just about the last 50 years and celebrating that. It has left something else, an example, a trace that is worth keeping, worth extending in new ways, as we have from Eloise Burke talking about organizing with the queer community in East Africa, extending into our lives and context today. May and Andrew asked us to share a specific memory, and I want to close with this one. The year was 2003. In Women and Gender Studies, we had just completed an incredible lecture series on gender, transnationality, and citizenship. I never tire of saying that this series was inspired by Sheryl and Nestel, introducing a just published text by April Gruel and Karen Kaplan that we ended up adopting, and it would completely change how we approached our curriculum. Of course, we ordered it through the Toronto Women's Bookstore. Our last speaker that year was Angela Davis, who spoke about prisons and abolitionism before a packed audience at Convocation on campus, and the bookstore hosted her at a reception afterwards. I remember her perched precariously on a windowsill at the back of the bookstore. I think there are photos somewhere. And I was thinking, how the hell did we think we would fit everyone in here? This is what I remember. I guess I'm trying to say that the Toronto bookstore, Women's Bookstore, was about books. But what does that really mean? It was about the fierce and beautiful freedom dreams, to use historian Robin Kelly's term, that books conjured for us all, that they invited us to co-create. On and off the shelves were where our untidy worlds met. Not straightforwardly, a Sheryl story about the button shows, a story that takes on a particular poignancy here in the face of the unprecedented attacks by Hamas on Israel over the weekend, devastating attacks by Hamas, a new round of ongoing and devastating onslaught being visited upon the people of Gaza and Palestine. Those buttons from 2002, Women Against the Occupation, and then I think the other one, Women for Peace in Israel and Palestine, take on urgent meaning today, still, now. We have to come to our kitchen tables with a steadfast commitment to showing up, to working through, and to working out together. As Trinidadian feminist Jackie Alexander says, when will we recognize that we have been neighbors living the raucous scenes of deprivation? The gift that the Toronto Women's Bookstore has left us is of a space where we might gather, not just for the easy conversations, not just for the laughter, all the joy is important, but for the difficult and painful discussions, like the ones that have been unfolding over this past weekend, the conversations that we need now more than ever. Andrew and May, for pulling this off tonight, thank you. And to all of you incredible, fierce people who co-created this infrastructure that endures, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much to the four of you. I just want to say a few words about the button boycott as well, as someone who was right in the dead center of it, because it's been very much on my mind the last few days. And one thing I want to say is that we tried very hard to get some Palestinian women here on stage to speak tonight. We formed a Palestinian Jewish Solidarity Committee, which was Sheryl, which was Shlomi Sigal, who's here, which was Badia Warwar, who's now in Nazareth, and which was also Hanadi Lani, who wasn't able to come tonight. So we really wanted to have some Palestinian women on stage who were involved in button boycott. And Sheryl, you spoke about how we supported you, but one of the main things that comes out for me about that time is that we didn't do it in isolation. Right? I mean, we were very close to what we felt was like losing the bookstore over our politics. And I remember very clearly having very strong conversations with Esther Weiss, who was here, who was very critical, who was on the staff and on board. Can we just say a thank you to Esther? And to May. And the rest of the staff who are also here. And we said, you know, we could lose this bookshop because of this button, right? It was hell, and this was before social media. And one thing I also was thinking about was, thank God there was no social media, because I don't actually think we would have survived it. I really don't. I really don't think we would have survived it if Twitter and Facebook and Instagram were around. But, and it went on for months and months and months and months and months. It wasn't just like a 3-week thing. This thing went on for 8 months, really. And there were many moments we thought, okay, we could lose everything that we've all worked towards. So I thought, we're only going to stay around if the community shopping campaign. And that solidarity shopping campaign, it really meant the world to us because it gave us that emotional strength to go on because we knew we were in community. And at the end of the day, we didn't get any government grants. We lived and survived and paid rent by the sale of every single book. So for all of you who really worked with us throughout what I felt was one of the biggest political crises in the women's bookstore history, apart from probably the firebombing, thank you, because we didn't do it alone. We never did anything alone. We did it with you, we did it with Orav, we did it with Esther, who was on the board, we did it with Hanabi, we did it with Ayla, who came, we did it with people like Karen Weisberg, who called me up, when I was working on the front desk on a Saturday, to thank us when we were getting calls slamming us nonstop, right? And it was that emotional strength that we got from each other that really kept us going. Sheryl referenced an interview that Amy Butley, who is very dear to many in this room. She passed away of cancer a few weeks ago. And Amy did an interview with me for the Rise Up Feminist Archive about the history of the women's bookstore. And I speak at length for about 20 minutes in there about the button boycott. So if you want to know more, listen to that interview. Just Google the Rise Up Feminist Archive. So anyways, I've spoken for too long, but thank you to the four of you for speaking. It was really moving. I'm going to get Huda, Hassan. Huda's going to come back on stage for our last round table of speakers, and then we are going to have Victoria Moreno up, and then me and Mayor to speak, and then we're going to have lunch. And then we're going to have DJ Amita, so you can dance on the way. Okay, everyone. Oh, thank you. Dianah, Souvankham, Elizabeth, Janet, please come to the stage. Yay. Okay, as they are sitting, I will read out their amazing bios. Dianah Smith, she/her is her ancestors' heart. The manifestation of their unrelinquished hopes and dreams. A Jamaican-born, Ottawa-raised writer based in Toronto, she is a winner of the 2023 Journey Prize. Her hybrid memoir, Whoever You Love, I Love, will be an inaugural publication of Hush Harbor Black Feminist Queer Press. Woo! Souvankham, Thammavongsa is the author of 4 poetry books and the story collection How to Pronounce Knife, which won the Scotiabank Board Prize. It's an amazing collection. We have it here tonight. Get it if you haven't read it. Woo! Her stories appear regularly in The New Yorker. Elizabeth Ruth is author of the novels 10 Good Seconds of Silence, Smoke, Matadora, and Semi-Detached, just launched a few weeks ago. We have copies here. She has founded Clitlit, a queer series, and edited the anthology Bent on Writing. Ooh, sorry, I'm blocking it. Maybe I should sit over here. Probably stand over here. I know. Janet Romero Leva.
and Ladua, who recently started following her on Instagram. Very exciting. Janet is also the brilliant designer of the T-shirt, and please pick that up if you can. Janet is actually an amazing artist as well. So we are going to start with Dianah.
Hi. Oh my goodness, so I'm just, can you guys just clap and scream and yell and... All right. So many years later, the nerves are still there. So why don't we start with the Montgomery Riverboat Ball. Blocked from docking, co-captain dispatched. Request falls on deaf ears like the pleas of his ancestors 200 years earlier on the edges of the same shore. Flesh branded, greased, squeezed, plugged, poked, set on auction blocks. A sunburnt bidder's fist flies into the co-captain's face. He throws his cap in the air as if to say, game on. Descendants shout from the shore, the boat, the dock. God help that man! A teenage voice splashes across the river. A trio of bare-chested men appear. Women in heels, hair on point, purse hang off shoulders, join the melee. Ancestors watch from the shore, the sky, the Harriet too. Everyone can hear their resounding chorus, not today, not today, not today. This one's called For the Love of God. I wrote this just after 215, the remains of 215 children were found. Who stood by? Who gave the orders? How many shovels already at the site? How many too big for small hands? Who ordered them to get on their knees and dig? Was it the same voice that ordered them to get on their knees, their backs, all fours inside those airless, silent buildings? How did they decide was finally done? What was the depth? What was the circumference? Who measured for accuracy? Did the sisters hold up the hands of their robes to avoid dragging them through the mud? Did the brothers and other lovers get covered with dirt while they walked on Souvankham lands? After it was filled and covered over, who still believed they were doing God's work? Alright, so lightening it up a lot. This piece is more directly connected to the Carolyn's bookstore. I met the mother ex-partner in the poem at the Carolyn's bookstore. Okay, it's called Not the Child. That Christmas, and it's dedicated to Alissa. That Christmas morning while your dad and sister waited in the car. Can you guys hear me properly? Alright, thank you so much. That Christmas morning while your dad and sister waited in the car, you ran back in the house to tell me you loved me. 1 year earlier, your mom had called a house meeting. You guessed without fuss or drama. She wanted to tell you that she was gay. All that time and money spent in therapy, how to come up without damaging the children, and you, the one, moved your change like light through clear window. We fell in stride, eyes sparkling, peels laughter bouncing against the more reserved backdrop of mom and big sister. I watched you transition from oversized t-shirts and sweatpants to crop tops and midi shorts. From foot stomping and door slamming to potent argumentation or breathing silence. We went on a gelato tour, a little Italy for one of your birthdays, incredulous about whether or not I flavored gelato, you could jolt me into trying. Self-designated DJ on road trips and sang in unison to Ed Sheeran and One Russian. Stocked with wet Twizzlers and gummy bears, you preferred the road to the final destination. Then your mom and I broke up, and I was banished from your life. This is me running back in the house to tell you I love you. Thank you guys.
Can you hear me? My name is Souvankham, Thammavongsa, and it's not hard to pronounce. I didn't know how to become a writer, and I didn't want anyone to tell me how to be one. I wanted to determine for myself what a writer could look like, what a writer could sound like, what a writer can write. My friends and I ran a zine called Big Boots, and we sold it for 50 cents. And I printed and bound my own books, and the Toronto Women's Bookstore gave us that space. We didn't think of being on the bestseller list, only about following our joy. My books did sell to people who care about me, who care that I have enough to eat and what happens when I'm scared. I don't write about what I'm supposed to. I write about the quiet, the snow, a grasshopper, a snail. I write about people who are proud of their language and where they come from. I write about people who don't want to belong, people who don't want to be nice. Without the encouragement and the space the Toronto Women's Bookstore gave me, a voice like mine would have disappeared. So I just want to read from that voice that didn't disappear. It's from a short story called Edge of the World. My parents went to parties to hear the news from back home, or to ask what happened to those they left behind. Who was still there? Was their house still standing? And if they made it out of Laos, which refugee camp did they end up in? How long were they there? And where did they land? My parents read the newspaper or watched the evening news. They never heard anything about what was happening in our country. It was almost like it didn't exist. My father was often at the center of these parties. A wave of laughter would crash in from the living room, and when I peered inside, he would be there, telling everyone his stories. The one everyone seemed to love and to hear him tell was his yes sir story. And even though they had all heard it before, he would begin the story as if they hadn't. He told them how he had said, yes sir, in English at work, whenever anyone told him what to do. But he said it with the tone and force of a fuck you. Then he marched around the room and saluted everyone like a dutiful soldier, saying in English, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, each time. marveled with glee at how the people at work thought he was so polite and nice. My mother watched and listened to all of this from the kitchen, but she never joined in. She kept to herself eating a plate of food while surrounded by Tupperware, glass casserole dishes, steaming pots, simmering pans, plastic forks and spoons, and paper plates. I stayed there with her, and she told me what each dish was and how it was supposed to be cooked. She pointed out that some of the key ingredients were missing and said that none of the dishes could live up to her memory of the real thing. She said the food in Laos just tasted better, and that maybe someday when I was older, we could go back and visit. She said all this to me in Lao. A woman in the kitchen overheard her and said, "Your child understands Lao." My mother was proud that I could still have something from the old country, even though I had never been there. But the woman said to her, "Oh no, you better start speaking English with her. How is she going to fit in once she gets to school?" When the woman left the kitchen, we laughed at her. How worried, sick she seemed about not fitting in with everybody, as if that was a thing to want.
I just want to say before I start that watching Souvankham be recognized by Bill was fucking awesome. I feel like we have, because watching somebody who's been at work for a really long time and working really hard and working in community is just, it's amazing to see that kind of recognition. Anju, can I just hold it? Oh, wait, there it was. Okay. Okay, I almost cried hearing Anju speak, so I'm going to attempt not cry while I speak. There are so many foremothers in this room for me and who have been mentioned. I don't know where Decter is, but she was the first person to publish me a long time ago. Where are you? There she is. Okay. And is Norbert Philip here? Another teacher of mine. Okay. So I know we have 5 minutes and 12 seconds, I swear. PWB was always more than a bookstore. It was an ecosystem for social change. And when TWB closed its doors for the last time, we all mourned. We still miss that brick and mortar hub. But because of the years of nurturing and support, queer writers entered the unkind world of book publishing, believing we deserved an audience. Like dandelion spore, we've spread our words across this country in every direction, in every genre. The building may have disappeared, but the community building spirit of TWB never has, obviously. In 1990s, there was a revolution of sorts, a steady stream of brilliant, fierce, highly charged queer voices that eventually blasted into the firmament of Canada. Here is a very partial snapshot. 1990, Dykewards, an anthology of lesbian writing, was published. 1990, Ash's Mums, Rosamund Elwin and Michelle Plus. Are you here? Rosamund? I didn't have a kid then, but when I did get one, I went right out and got Ash's Mums. 1991, Makeda Silvera publishes Peace in the Heart, a lesbian and color anthology. 1992, Upstairs in the Crazy House by the late Cat Capone. 1995, When Fox is 1,000 by Larissa Lau. 1994, Cheyenne Salvadori's Funny Boy, a queer coming-of-age story, lands with the
a major publishing house. His success was followed in '96 with Shiny moved to a serious Bloom at Night. And the international sensation Fall on Your Knees by May McDonald. It began to seem possible that queer writing, not just queer writers, would crack into the mainstream. That's still a question. Then came 1998, a tipping point year in retrospect. The Tasteless Collective publishes Boys Like Her, Trans Fictions. Tomai Kobayashi publishes Exile of the Heart, the second book. TWB brought Dorothy Allison to Toronto to speak about Bastard out of Carolina, which changed my life. Aaron X. Tolchinsky edited the first of their short fiction collections, Unbothered, and Helen Humphreys publishes first novel, Leading Earth, which wins the City of Toronto Book Award. And in the fall of 1998, while I was working on my first novel, I started Clitlit. I see you later, yeah. So some of us remember it fondly. It was a queer women's reading series, but it was really more than that. It was a community-based space. It was highly politically charged. What do we have? Butch femme nights, road trips, colonialism, racism, and gender, gay men's fiction, erotica, trans night. Like, it was everything that I wanted it to be, and probably could have been a lot better. So I started out in '98. It ran every month for 5 years. And then we moved into the 2000s. So, and I'm jumping over Lillian and Alan because I got to jump, but it was 1999, I think. Oh, she's gone. Psychic Unrest came out. Anyway, we moved into the 2000s and our voices start growing in number and volume. TWB launches my first novel in 2001. In 2002, Clay Brushwood Rose and Anna Camillet edit Brazen Femme. And I edit Ben on Writing Contemporary Queer Tales based on reading series. And so it went. We were in conversation with each other whether we knew it or not. TWB was always either providing the platform or promoting it. Then I attend Trish Salah's Trans 101 course at the store. Is Savannah Bazat here? You were sitting right beside me at that course. So I am certain that Trish and a lot of other research, but that course really influenced a trans character in my novel Smoke, which TWB also launched. I taught a queer workshop at the store. The then store invited me to introduce Jeanette Winterson at the launch of her Toronto launch for Light Housekeeping. We can talk about it another time. And exactly 30 years ago this month, I gave the keynote address at TWB's 30th anniversary party. At the Lula Lounge. Writers such as Dion Brand, Nicole Broussard, Jane Rule, Erin Murray, etc. hadn't yet become the award-winning powerhouses they are today. But they were there, writing and publishing all alone. The success of writers like Donahue, Malika Tamaki, Camilla Gibbs, Zoe Whittle rest on the shoulders of those earlier writers and activists and booksellers who carved a path. A few weeks ago, I published my fourth novel, Semi-Detached, which features two queer couples in the same Toronto neighborhood in different time frames. Wouldn't have been possible when I started. The 90s was a dynamic time to be queer and write in Toronto. I was in English Lit and we called Women's Studies, then undergrad, buying textbooks at the store and working at Nellie's. White feminism was being challenged by women of color for its racism. Lesbians were calling out straight women for their homophobia. Lesbians were being challenged for our transphobia. Bisexuals were invalidated by everyone. And everybody was being, I couldn't resist, and everybody was being ableist and perpetuating the invisibility of two-spirit people in women's spaces. Like today, it wasn't an easy time, but it was necessary and productive in terms of social change. TWB was at the center of it all. The store practiced an intersectional politics before intersectional was a word. it referenced the fact that you wouldn't find Hiromi Goto or Nala Hawkinson just in the speculative section, or just in the women of color section, or just in the queer section. They were in all three. And that politic wasn't just good business. It gave us readers a greater reach, because readers who would go to the shelves and they think they knew who you were would look there, and you might be there, but you'd be three other places, right? We met readers we would not otherwise have met through that. TWB also provided us with access to major rights from across the border, pulling 1,000+ audiences for Bell Hooks, Angela Davis, Alice Walker, Dorothy Allison, and others. Nobody can do that now. Have you been on the Harbourfront to the Toronto International Festival? There's not 1,000 people there. So there's only one thing left to say. Thank you, TWB, for your vision, your courage, your zines and buttons and workshops. You were a refuge for our ideas, a home for innovation and boundary-busting words. You were the infrastructure beyond the success of any queer writer in this country, myself included, and we owe you a debt of gratitude. Thank you all, because you made what I'm going to share, just you centered it as folks who were part of my life at the bookstore. So thank you to all three of you. So my relationship with TWB began in the mid-90s. A few months prior, I had had a brief literary run-in with crystals. And I was left wanting more. Her words landed exactly where I needed them. Reading crystals changed my perspective of what and who a writer can be, how writers should write, and that we are all allowed to write what we want. Her words made me feel like my words mattered and have power. It was pretty magical. I found my way to Harvard Street, looking for more of that magic. And I found it. On the shelves of this place I didn't previously know. I found it on page after page of Not Vanishing and Borderlands and When Fox is 1,000 and Sister Outsider and Fall on Her Knees. Many years later, in my job as the events coordinator, I got to bring some of that magic to Toronto. But first, a little bit more about TWB. I worked at TWB for almost 7 years. It's the longest job I have ever had. I started as a part-time front desk staff, then moved to events coordinator and then co-manager. It was a gloriously challenging, beautiful, heart-opening, demanding, and tough job. Being a space that was trying to be everything for everyone, because there was and still is so little we can be and feel whole. We didn't always get it right. And even when we did, it wasn't right everyone wanted or needed. We were learning and evolving and figuring out how to be a business in a community space, while also learning about ourselves and how to work with each other from and within a feminist anti-oppression lens, and still open the doors up to me on each morning. So yes, TWB was a bookstore, yet so much more than that. A meeting place, a learning place, a joyful place, a place of love and growth and pain and discovery and unlearning. A community of writers, published, unpublished, soon to be published, or never to be published. Indigenous, Black, Asian, Latinx, Middle Eastern, women, non-binary, queer, trans, differently abled. A community of readers and learners, activists and academics, people who wanted to support the growth of marginalized and underrepresented communities in general, not just in publishing. People like all of us here today prove still that TWB was so much more than a bookstore. Specifically, what I was asked to share today was how we support supported local writers, some published and some not, from various marginalized communities, such as those on this panel today. We did events, lots of them, and everyone here has alluded to so many of the wonderful things that happened throughout the history of TWB. We mostly did book launches, but also some that didn't necessarily have books, because we knew and know the value of having a space to gather. We specifically sought out Indigenous, Black, and writers of color to do book launches and fill our shelves, both to support the writers, but also for our communities to see themselves represented and know and believe that this is also a possibility for us. We offered courses on writing and feminism, financial health, and yoga. We ensured they were affordable, having subsidized as well as half-price spots. We ensured at least half the class spots were filled with Indigenous, Black, and folks of color. We hosted Bain in Color, a symposium of writers of color to share their work and knowledge on how to get published, finish a manuscript, learn to write fiction, and so on. We hired staff that looked like the communities we wanted to see on our shelves. We sold zines, such as the one Souvankham mentioned, and coloring books created by local writers and artists. We featured local authors on our front table, faced them out on the shelves, and recommended them to customers whenever we had the chance. We highlighted them in emails, staff picks, and new releases. We provided honorariums whenever possible, even when they were small. We invited like-minded community organizations to co-sponsor events. And we did limit ourselves to what we could do in store, or whose book we could launch. We were willing to travel and carry heavy boxes on that annoying little cart and bring those boxes up and down multiple flights of stairs and order food and drinks and set up rooms. And then clean up and pack up those books in those boxes to be carried up and down the stairs and return to the store and count the books and count the money and still the next day continue to dream and plan for the next event. Which brings me back to Christos. Her writing had such a profound impact on me that I wanted everyone to know her. I still do. And I love that she got mentioned, I think, 4 or 5 times already today. And what power I had as the event coordinator of a feminist bookstore. Every year, I would look over the upcoming catalogs, fingers crossed, hoping she was having another book published. After about 4 years of patiently waiting, I decided that she didn't need to have a new book for us to bring her. She just had to be willing to come to Toronto and do reading, to which she agreed. And I have seen some faces here today who were there that day, who either heard her for the first time, or who, like me, had already felt the power of her words. And that is what TWB was and is, a space to gather, learn, and be in community. Thank you all so much. I'm very honored to moderate this final panel conversation. And Elizabeth, I read my first written piece out loud in front of people at Lit. And it was about the bookstore. So if people are interested, it is floating around out there. And it was, I think, for Mayworks, because it was about work and about where I worked. So I wrote about the store. It's pretty funny, actually. And yeah, so that was, just wanted to, I almost forgot about Lit. So I guess we haven't really been having the conversations, but before we sort of finish our time on the stage here, the 4 of you, any comments or reflections on what other folks have shared? Because the writings and the reflections have been absolutely lovely. Yes.
I just really wanted to underscore the accessibility that was so critical at Carolyn's bookstore. I think that having sliding scale, free
courses really help, and having working class, queer, racialized writers, so I could go to these workshops and see people who look like me, and then I could realize that I could also relate write, and I haven't seen enough of that, so that was just incredible and important. Thank you. I remember being so nervous. I don't know if anybody else mentioned this tonight, but when I was, young and coming out, I just remember standing in front of the zine section and just like, can anyone tell I'm queer? Like, little do I know, right? Half the room's queer. But it was terrifyingly exciting, and I don't think there's anything else been like that.
I think Angela had talked a little bit about not feeling and we look around the room tonight, you may have felt alone, but you can actually see and hear people's voices that have made the gift or the love that you want to make real.
I feel like, now what? I don't have the answer to that. I know there was talk when Eloise and Sharon and I were originally talking about the recording of having a way to keep this momentum going. And if people want to sign up, I think maybe we can just start a sign-up sheet at the Another Story book table and keep in touch. I think that's kind of what can happen. That's, yeah. Yeah. Phone tree, that's cute. So thank you all. Thank you all so much. I'd like to invite Moreno to come up to the stage. All right, how are you feeling? We're getting towards the end of the night. So as I wrap up my hosting duties tonight, I want to give 3 quick shout-outs. The seats over there right behind the tables, the front row. Mariam Dalal and Abdi Hassan, the beautiful Somali couple sitting there, my parents. They're also my favorite Scarborough love story. No. The last person I want to quickly shout out is a Black feminist organizer here tonight who's taught so many of her peers like me. She's a sister in community. She also represents Scarborough, Yusra Kogali. Let's celebrate the people still doing the work. All right. Victoria Moreno currently works at the Hospital of Sick Children, a field of equity, diversity, and inclusion in the Department of Pediatrics. She continues to be committed to community. Please join me in giving her a warm welcome. Thank you.
So, for those of you who don't know, in 2009, the Women's Bookstore was close to bankruptcy, and there was a decision to either close it or to put it up for sale. Up until that point, we haven't really talked about this. Bookstore was a non-profit corporation with no owner. It had never had an owner in all of its history. It was put up for sale, and Victoria very bravely bought it and kept it open for another 3 years. So, Victoria, why the hell did you do that? Because that was really crazy. Brave.
Yes, it was. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I think if I can hold this, it's probably better.
my house, yeah. Fortunately, we didn't grow up with religion, so I think the sexuality bit was still difficult for me, but having been in women's studies and being introduced to the women's bookstore really opened up my eyes in so many ways. I think even then, my family was really strong in social justice. So as a child, I live and breathe social justice. I continue to do so. And so I was looking for a new project and loved the bookstore. I worked there for 4 years on and off as a relief worker. So I do know Sharon Fernandez, and I know many women who really shaped who I am today. And I felt like that space was crucial for me in my identity and the community, and in letting me be who I really was. It was my savior. So I figured it's time for me to move on and find, years later, something else to do. And I looked at the bookstore again and realized that they were looking for someone to take it over. It wasn't going to be a sale really, but someone to take it over. And I thought, what better way to give back to a community of support for me, and that if I could provide that for others, because it was so much more than a bookstore, that was my intention. I did have a CBC interview then, and they asked me, do you have deep pockets? I said, I absolutely don't have deep pockets, but I have a passion for social justice and community, and that's why I decided to take it over. It was a difficult task. It saddened me that I had to close it. At the same time, I felt such an honor to be able to be the person to, after everyone's hard work, all the people you've seen and heard today, that it was my blood, sweat, and tears, and I felt it was my charity work. It was something to give back to the community at the time. So, yeah. Thank you.
Want to say anything else?
I think in closing, I think, I see everyone here today, and I think what it represented was a space for me. A space when I took it over, I thought, I want to keep a space. I want to be inclusive of everyone, have events, a gathering place where people could continue to feel safe. And, I think I had good ideas at the time. I added a cafe component and continued the events. But it wasn't the time for books in the bookstore, and I had a lot of rent to pay and back taxes, et cetera. So it was a difficult task. But again, I think everyone here today is just it seems there's hope. There's a bit of hope in the air, and I love the Women's Bookstore website still continues. I pay for it year after year, the domain name. So, that shows you that I have hope. And I really want to thank Maya and Anju for putting this great event, and everyone else, all the volunteers, and everyone who had their hand in this evening, and for all of you who will continue to support the bookstore and who are here today, and those who are online elsewhere. Thanks. Okay, so before we bring out Lau, which is our last, performer of the evening, should I tell the story? I'll tell the short story. I'll tell the short story of, it must have been, was it 2002, 2003, when same-sex marriage was legalized in Canada. I think I was on the front desk, and two women came in, two black women from New York City, and they had come to Toronto to get married, and they needed witnesses, and they thought, where else to get witnesses to come to City Hall with them but the Toronto Women's Bookstore. So we got two staff. I think I covered someone's shift on the front desk so that they could go, and they were so happy. And it was like it wouldn't have been legal or whatever where they lived in New York, but it was an amazing thing that they thought of the Women's Bookstore, came directly to the store, and then got strangers, witnesses, and they just went off to
and got married. So that was a beautiful, beautiful moment for us. Like, woo, you know.
So this brings us to the close. Is this mic on? May has put together an amazing slideshow that folks who came here early for dinner watched it. But after Law goes on, we're going to have the slideshow on again. And then DJ Amit is going to spin some tunes, so don't run away. But I have my own little thing I wanted to say. I was a bit shy to do this, but I thought this is the place to do this. So Elizabeth Ruth sent me an email back in 2021, told me that she had nominated me to the Writers Union of Canada for the Freedom to Read Award. And I thought, it's a long shot, you know, there's so many writers like at it, and, you know, I kind of put it out of my mind, but not. But in February 2022, in the midst of the pandemic, I got an email from the Writers Union of Canada, and they awarded me the Freedom to Read Award 2022. And, Elizabeth, you know, this came during the pandemic, so there was nothing about it, but this is probably the most meaningful professional recognition I have ever had. And it does say, presented by tireless work building community and promoting diverse reading and writing in Canada. So I wanted to share it because I never toot my own horn. I'm always introducing an author. But Elizabeth, thank you so much for nominating me, and thank you for the Writers Union I was the second bookseller in the country to get it. And I still continue book selling. I know Women's Bookstore is gone, but Another Story Bookshop on Wencesvilles, and it's still there. We still do amazing work. You know, founded by Sheila Kaufman, and now she passed away, but there's many of us who are continuing on in the tradition of fierce, activist, critical, intersectional bookselling. So it's, you know, it's not TWB, but it is ASB, and come check it out and get on the email list. So we're going to invite Huda back to the stage. Wait a second, Esther's here. Why is Esther here? Esther's here. With a t-shirt, my t-shirt. I'm crashing the stage part. I just wanted to take a moment. This is a very small token of thank you to May and June. So as someone who has been privileged to know them and love them for decades now, as all of you have, thank you. May, thank you for the spreadsheets, for the weekly emails. Andrew, thank you for the vision. Thank you both for all the heart and love and energy and time of which you do not have lots of, that you put into organizing this evening and bringing us together. But really, this was May. This is all May. May gets all the credit. May gets all the credit. May! Okay, let's get Huda on stage, our fabulous host, Huda Hassan. Thank you so much. You want to introduce Love? Yeah, Love's bio. Let's get you back on the stage. And thank you so much for being here, being part of the evening. Yeah, okay. She's going to close us up.
So my hosting duties are not over. Rosina Kazi, Nicholas Murray are Law, the Toronto-based protest electronic duo. They celebrate their 25th year as a duo with a new album and a short film called Spectacular, out in November 2023, so that's next month. Spinning a fusion of club beats, reggae, soca, Bollywood, and other global influences. Oh no, sorry, in the next bio. Please welcome Law.
So I was probably part of the shittest show of the women's bookstore stuff. I worked downstairs, so I didn't have no fucking props. But at some point in our set with 2 songs, I want everybody who worked as staff as we leave, who just was there fucking out, come on fucking stage. Please. This is the dance part of the evening. We must must have words and books and literary shit. We also must release this shit without words, and that's called music. So let's hear it out. As much as these bitches want to tell you how lovely this shit was, it was some fucked up shit too. It was some drama. It was some fucking drama. And I ain't gonna pretend like there wasn't. Cause there was. I did not want to see another Annie Franco fucking CD in my fucking life. You know what I'm telling you? But generations change. What I learned from women's bookstore was that I wasn't just a straight bitch from Denton. I was a young bitch that always showed me. It brought us together in a way that we fought. And it wasn't good all the time. And we still got to What?
everybody. I don't want this dead happiness. I don't want this dead happiness. I don't want this dead happiness. I don't want Our lawlessness keeps it moving. Shit moving. Shit, Charlie, thank you for doing the live like that shit. Shit moving. Who's it getting fucking drunk and rough? Anyway, I'm gonna go out loud. Bookstore for like 8 years. I don't remember. It was just a big blur. Because never read a book until after I left. So I was fucking annoying. I stopped reading books after I went to the women's bookstore. So I needed a break. Like 10 years. You know what I'm saying? I started reading again. We have to teach the next generation, which we still do at Unit 2 out of our house to our house space, that this exists. Toronto history, queer, trans, lesbian, feminist history exists. And I just encourage people to really talk to younger people, talk to older people. We're gonna have some bullshit happen this winter with transfers and shelters. We'll start some phone tree shit, or email shit, or IG shit where we can have people, not just our friends.
not just the people that we know. We need to create an alternative system. Fuck these governments. Fuck these governments. Let's create our own system to make sure that we are okay, yeah? There's like 5 of us who are like, yeah, we're down. Everybody else is smoking. But trust me, if we do not create our own systems, we're fucked. So start thinking about that shit now, yeah? Peace. And thank you to all the folks that move around. Let's give up for all the staff that move around.